Welcome to the sixth and final unit of the Setting Up My First Scenario course. You've come a long way. We've covered adding and connecting modules, and in this unit, we're going to bring everything together with a crucial element of Make: mapping. Mapping is how you tell Make which specific pieces of information from one module should be transferred to another. Think of it like a map. It directs data from one point to another, allowing the apps in your scenario to communicate effectively. As usual, make sure you have your Make Foundation use case open and ready to go. What is mapping? Since you've already built a basic scenario, let's connect this idea of mapping to what you have in front of you. Imagine you want to take the description of the current weather in London and place that information into the first row of your spreadsheet. To do this, you need to map the data. Essentially, you're creating a direct connection between the output of the first module, your weather module, and a specific input field in your second module, your Google Sheets module. This is like creating a route on a map to direct the data to its destination. Knowing what we can map, task 1. The first step in mapping is understanding which data we can use. To do this, we'll first run our weather module to see what information it retrieves, generating a bundle quo consume and operation. We'll break this task down into 2 steps. First, on the weather module, right-click and select Run this module only. Because this is our starting point or source module, Make needs to retrieve the current weather data to see what we can map. You can think of this as Make collecting the necessary ingredients before you start cooking, generating a bundle and an operation. You'll now see a thought bubble next to the weather module containing the number 1. This means that the module successfully ran one operation and retrieved a bundle of weather data that we can use. Think of this bundle like a container ship carrying goods. Make has gathered the data and placed it in a bundle, ready to be sent to the next module. What's in the bundle? To see the data within the bundle, click the plus next to the number 1. You'll see 2 sections, Input and Output. The Input bundle shows the configuration you entered into the weather module, in this case, the City of London. The Output bundle is more interesting. This shows the current weather data for London, including temperature, humidity, wind speed, sunrise, sunset, and more. Notice that some items have a plus next to them. These are known as collections, and they contain multiple data points that can be individually mapped. For now, just know that these collections will give you more flexibility when setting up your scenarios later. Mapping items into our target module, task 2. Now that we know what data is available, let's map those items into our Google Sheets module. Where to map your items. To complete this part, have your Make Foundation Scenario Google Sheet open so you can see how Make interacts with it. Back in Make, open the Google Sheets module and select Add a Row. This is our target module. It's where the mapped data will end up. Scroll down to the Values section. You'll see fields labeled A, B, C, and so on. These represent the columns in your Google Sheet. Mapping items. Click the plus in the field labeled A. You can now see all of the items from your weather data bundle. You can either click on an item or drag and drop it into the field to map it to column A in your spreadsheet. For example, if you wanted the sunrise time to appear in the first column of your spreadsheet, you would map the sunrise data item from the weather module to the field labeled A. Let's map sunrise to row A, temperature to B, status to C, and description to D. Tip: viewing the source of your items. Here's a helpful tip before we move on. When you hover over any of the mapped items in your Google Sheets module, you'll notice that the weather module pulses. This is a visual cue from Make indicating that the data in that field is coming from the weather module. This visual link will become incredibly useful later when you build more complex scenarios with multiple modules and data sources, making it easy to see where each piece of data originates. Running your scenario for the first time. The next course will cover running scenarios in more depth. However, you are actually ready to run your first automation right now. Make sure you have your Google Sheet open in another tab so you can see the magic happen. In Make, click the Run Once button. Then, take a look at your Google Sheet. You will see that Make has successfully added a new row containing the mapped weather data from the weather module. Congratulations! You have just run your first scenario. Unit complete. That wraps up Unit 6 and our entire Setting Up My First Scenario course. You've learned what an item is, how to generate a bundle of data, how to map items, and how to see where those mapped items will appear in your destination. You should now have a basic understanding of how Make's data mapping system works. We'll explore all of these concepts in more detail in the upcoming courses. But for now, take a moment to appreciate what you've accomplished. You've successfully built a simple automation from scratch